Thank you for joining us today. At the outsourcing panel earlier this afternoon, you talked about some of the major trends that we will see in India in the coming years. And we heard some divergent comments from people there. There were some who felt that in many segments of the market, the industry has matured and it needs to move up the ladder and introduce value-added services. What is your take on what do you think are the opportunities ahead, and what are the concerns we have to be dealing with?
Well, outsourcing industry during the last decade has been has seen quite extraordinary growth, and Indian companies have grown quarter on quarter. We have seen the numbers, and there has been a slowdown in the business during the last 1-2 years because of the economic scenario, as well as the focus of government by putting pressure on the companies not to offshore the business because of the jobs being lost in the United States. That has put pressure on the industry. While I see this as a temporary phenomenon, over a period of time, this will eventually fade away because American enterprises do need to offshore to stay competitive in the long run in the global economy as such. But what the concerns that I have are because these so-called economic incentives by the government not to offshore are going to be there for a while, and on the other side, the costs of Indian delivery model are going up because of the primarily because of the wages inflation. During the last decade or so, there has been an average over 15% wage increase per year, making the cost arbitrage of 1 in 6 a decade ago to at best about 1 in 3 currently. And it is likely to go down to 1 in 1.5, making the outsourcing not so cost effective in the next 5-6 years if the same rate of wage inflation continues, assuming that the US salaries remain more or less constant. So that coupled with these social pressure on these companies could make it could make a dent into the Indian software party. That's what.
Do you see that, and I suppose you're talking about the US government here, the US corporate sector, the pressure on them not to outsource. That pressure is surely dissipated in recent years. A lot of it probably had to do with election rhetoric, right? Or do you really feel that at a firm level?
I see it. It is there underlying in the minds of most of the decision makers.
There have been efforts made by NASSCOM, the Indian Software Industry Association, and other government agencies and industry leaders to promote India as a destination for offshoring IT services. There were delegations that came here. There were presentations made at Davos at the World Economic Forum. What is the outcome of all that? Has that all yielded any fruit?
Definitely, yes. Otherwise, situation could have been a lot more worse. That's what I feel.
The cost arbitrage falling from 1/6 to 1/3. I'm sure it's not across the board. You're probably talking about certain segments, or is that something that you see on an average?
This is an average figure. Yes, it could be more in some sectors, it could be less in some sectors.
Surely one of the ways the industry can overcome this is to introduce more value-added services and move up the value chain?
Yes. As we discussed in the panel today, the model could be instead of on a hourly basis or a man-month basis, instead of that, or a simple process efficiency. So far, Indian companies have gone up to the process efficiency level. The model has to be how effective the work is going to be, which is result-oriented based contracts. That will add a lot of value to the enterprises here.
And which are the industries where you're seeing some movement in this area? We've heard companies are making progress in pharmaceuticals and life sciences, in legal services, patent filings and things of that nature, what they call knowledge process outsourcing. How much of that is really happening? Is there a real movement there, or are we?
I see a good movement in life sciences back office work. And legal, barring a very few small companies, I didn't see much of it really happening. That's what is my.
Which are the industries you think we will see more opportunity in the years to come?
One thing which emerged as an outcome of global bandwidth prices, especially into India, there has been a substantial drop, as we discussed about, from 1.87 crores, almost $500,000 per 2 Mbps per annum 10 years ago, to $1,000 per annum for the same price, for the same quantity of bandwidth. And the quality of it, those days it used to be 1600 milliseconds to under 200 milliseconds today, has resulted in new business models emerging. One such is the infrastructure outsourcing. That's what we do at CtrlS, and we have seen a great traction in this business model from nearby countries to begin with. That is, the Gulf region as well as African countries are increasingly looking at outsourcing infrastructure to India and to set up even their primary data centers.
When you talk about infrastructure, you're talking about IT infrastructure.
IT infrastructure, data centers primarily, which could be utilized as a disaster recovery or the primary data center. And I have seen some of the American enterprises which have data centers across the world. These are some of the large enterprises, mostly in the financial sector, are now consolidating their data centers, one in the US and the other one into India. All their Asia-Pac region data centers, they want regional small data centers, they want to consolidate into one so that they get the cost advantages as well as the better efficiencies.
And the capacity within the telecommunications industry, the redundancies, the dependability, reliability, all that is all that. Are clients getting more and more comfortable with those? I mean, what is the situation on the ground? They've had concerns about shortcomings on those fronts.
Yes, the concerns used to be there as latest as 5-6 years back. But with multiple links coming into India currently, and almost all the major global carriers setting up their services in India, those problems we haven't encountered any during the last 3-4 years.
We've seen a lot of other emerging market countries compete with India in recent years, and they have grown not only their skill sets but also the breadth of services they offer. China, Vietnam, Philippines, South Africa, some of the Latin American countries. What are the comparative threats the Indian IT services industry faces?
Well, India is uniquely positioned when it comes to the outsourcing of IT and ITES activities. It is uniquely positioned because of the talent pool currently available and talent pool in the making. Over 2 million graduates pass out every year, and out of which over 600,000 of them are engineering graduates. So this, coupled with all of them are English speaking and can easily, most of them are readily suitable for doing the work, and some of them can be trained in a very short period of notice. This makes India a unique place for outsourcing the activity. China, for example, has a serious language issues. China, Russia, and some of the East European countries. Philippines has a cost issue. Even though their accent is very good, they have technical issues in terms of their engineering. The people's engineering background is not so good as that of Indians. And similarly, for call center activity, Ireland kind of countries also price themselves out. Their cost structures are way above the India's. And as of at the moment, I see India is in a great position. But over the years, if the wage inflation continues and if Indian service providers do not go a step up the value chain and go to the next levels, I see there could be competition coming from these countries.
You talk about India's engineering talent. I'm sure you've read numerous reports that talk about India's engineering talent being overstated. In fact, many studies have said a large number of these engineers are not really as skilled as one would like them to be. How much of that is true?
Well, I wouldn't accept that totally. India has some of the best talent, and the institutions like IITs and rural engineering colleges, regional engineering colleges, as well as some of the state government-run universities. Like I have graduated from Usman University. The talent available there is world-class, I would say. The exposure of the students and the facilities which are there are also comparable to any other university across the world. Now, there are this expansion of educational institutions to support the industry has been very rapid. There are over 200 colleges which have come into Andhra Pradesh state alone during the last decade. And that could have resulted in some of the mishaps, I would say.
Right. Now, this is one question I'm sure you get asked a lot. The impact of the Satyam controversy. Now, that scandal must have really shaken the confidence of many of the Indian outsourcing industry's clients in developed countries. What is the residual effect of that?
The effect of it on the investors has been quite high, especially towards Hyderabad-based companies. Satyam happens to be a Hyderabad company, and the investor confidence has taken a serious beating. But customers are going to be more choosy, I would say. They are likely to spend a lot more time on doing due diligence on the service provider to whom they are going to outsource, and that makes it a little more difficult for Indian service providers, I would say. But it's not something which is going to have any significant effect.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, gentlemen.